watching Nigeria Decides on Plus TV Africa, and of course the social media no doubt has become a veritable tool for communication. It's literally where we live, but this platform is susceptible to abuse by users, particularly desperate politicians and their supporters who use it as a platform to denigrate their opponents. How do we ensure that the social media is properly utilized at this time when we're faced with an election? Joining us for the discussion, we still have Ola Emma. He is a social entrepreneur and growth strategist. Thank you so much for being with us. And of course, we're joined by Elsie Godwin. She is the Welfare Officer, Digital Media Practitioners of Nigeria. Good to have you, Elsie.
All right, so big question. We see a lot of people that are very vocal on social media, especially on Twitter. Twitter is like the hottest, social media platform where everybody is talking about politics, the politician, those who stole monies, those who have, it's literally the breaking news site. Yeah. And if you're not on Twitter, you'd simply, it feels like you're, losing out. But then, does the level of commitment to tweeting and having those discussions on social media translate to the number of people who are really interested in getting their PVCs, not just getting a PVC, but going out there to vote? I'll start with you, Elsie.
Okay, when it comes to social media, you realize, especially Twitter, like you mentioned, realize that they focus more on the indirect participation of politics than the direct one. The indirect involves having political discussions, like you mentioned, and the direct is actually going out to stand and vote. And now, you realize also that this decision is not because they think they don't want to vote. It's because there's this mindset that even if I vote, my vote will not be counted. So that is where you need to start having this conversation and saying, okay, INEC is credible. But then, how credible is INEC? Because if I feel like, oh, I'm just going to stand under the sun from morning till night, and at the end of the day, they already know who is going in, I would not be gingered. That's the word they use on Twitter.
So what's the essence of having that banter on social media without having that banter in person?
There is something about Twitter. Unfortunately, our government have not gotten to that point where they really consider public opinion as one of the most important things they need to consider. But in places like the US that we love mentioning, they do not joke with any topic that is trending online. Everybody's picking it up. They want to know, why is this trending? Why is this person talking about this? Why is this person questioning these policies? And then it goes viral. So the fact is, it remains that if you cannot control or be involved directly in politics, then you can be involved indirectly and use your platform to control these narratives. But at the end of the day, we also try to encourage people to actually learn to be part of the direct communication, which is voting, being involved in town hall meetings, active participation instead of just being on the passive side and doing all
Let me bring you in at this point, Ola. Of course, I know that the social media can be a bulk when we talk about the fact that every news that's breaking, once you're active on social media, you're hearing that OBJ is writing letters, you're hearing that the president is responding, you're hearing that a lot of things. How discouraging can it get? Because Elsie pointed to voter apathy. Do we think that the social media, which is supposed to be a good thing, may end up being a negative because everybody hears everything that's going wrong at the same time and everybody's discussing, oh, our politics is bad, oh, this is going on and all that? Will it backfire?
The first thing is, in a proper democracy like what we claim to have, in quotes, claim to have. So in a proper democracy, there should be freedom for people to air views. And then in a proper democracy, we all understand that it's very simple to get. Very important that you get public poll, public opinion, engage people about
how does it affect the subconscious, the fact that I feel, oh, this is a hopeless case already?
The ideal is that the situation we will face in this country is something I call learned helplessness. Like what she has rightly said. When you've tried things again and again and again and again, and then you no longer have trust in governance, you no longer have trust in government and their institutions. So the people naturally lay back and then they start to look for that messiah that's going to come someday. All right, so the thing about the negative impact, it all depends about how you respond to it. All right, some things can be negative, but when you give it a positive response, like what she has rightly said, outside the shores of this place, we have, presidents of developed nations that take to Twitter themselves.
I was about to say that
themselves.
in Nigeria, gradually, everybody's shifting to Twitter. I mean, POTUS is on Twitter, FLOTUS is on Twitter.
Everywhere.
Now we have presidents and governors, in fact, their media aides all on social media like hawks, getting ready to respond to messages. So maybe we're playing catch up, but for the wrong reasons. Could it be?
I do want to see it. It's not for the wrong reasons. Instead, it's better put to be that we're growing people in that light, all right? When I mean we're growing people, the first thing is that we have a nation. We must all understand this, where the leaders are very afraid of being accountable. We don't like feedback, whether they are constructive or destructive. You know, so when you have a leadership that is like that, you make the people lay back. All right. So if we have a leadership system that receives feedback, and then the people will be very free to want to air whatever it is. Twitter is one of the platforms that is doing so much with youth engagement, people engagement and the likes. You know, like they say the voice of the people is the voice of God. So if you're a true democratic president in that sense, you should be able to listen to your people. So there's this wide divide between the people and the political class. All right. So if our politics or our governance starts to see that the people are part of the decision making, all right, every time there's a boss on Twitter, on any social media, you know, a constructive and a people-driven leader should be able to take those points, take the feedback, act on them positively, respond to them positively, and then you now understand where the real pain of those people are coming from.
Let's bring you in here. I'll see you on influencer as well, and I'm sure you've noticed some trends. You know, how even in Nigeria, we find that the top political candidates, the presidential candidates, are actively tweeting. You know,
Obviously.
even the presidential debate that held the other day, we did not sleep because people wanted to tweet till the end. So what are the trends you're seeing? How are the new ways that candidates are, you know, trying to get to people through the social media? Are there things you've observed that we should be aware of so that we're not caught unawares?
Okay, I'm not going to focus on candidacy because in the next 1 month, all this is going to be over.
Okay.
You know? So you see everyone coming on social media now to get a handle and start talking because they want to get something, which is what you mentioned. Are they doing this for the wrong reasons? Now, I also mentioned this, I think it was a program on this station too, where I said that they need to start acting and not just reacting. They are on that platform to see those that are putting out information that they don't want to see out there. Why not use this platform to be accountable? I'm glad we're talking about
essentially, please, can you repeat what you just said? That they are primarily on the platforms to know what people, to get to those who are saying...
Yes, not necessarily to solve them, but to be able to, should I say, put a gauge somewhere so that it does not affect their own political ambition. Not because they are there to say, oh, okay, this is happening. You have cases.
Why do you say so?
I mean,
yes.
I am on social media almost 24 hours. I mean, if I'm not sleeping, I'm there. You know, and you see a news break somewhere. Because one thing social media has done is to take you away from just being a consumer of news to being a publisher.
Yes.
So even if you have 200 followers and you're going somewhere, something happens, you can become a publisher at that point and put out that information.
Sure.
And before anybody tries to tell you this did not happen, you already have evidence, which is what is happening with digital age. So yes, they are afraid of this, which is what they should embrace. You cannot be afraid of the fact that people can get information. Now, you don't need to, look, let me put it this way. Twitter is a platform, or social media, Facebook, anything you want to call it, is a platform that has taken away sentiment. So I can be talking to a white person, a black person, whether you're old, whether you're young, whether you are male or female, whether you're old or young, I'm talking to everybody the same way. So it has taken away that sentiment, it's taken away that segregation, it's taken away that hierarchy, and you know that I can just wake up and tweet at you, even if you're the president, and tell you this is what I want.
You want to talk about a specific case, why you said that they are not actually there for the right reasons. I want you to point at that.
I mean, there are so many cases here, and I can't start picking up one now, but we have seen cases whereby they just come up and you're, okay, let's talk about the one about the killings in the north. You know, there are figures, people come out and say, these people have died. And then the army will come out and tell you, no, this amount of people did not die, you're trying to cover it up. And at the end of the day, you see a video that comes out to tell you, this actually happened. Do you get where I'm coming from? So you see a case whereby people are trying to cover information. They don't want people to know what exactly is going on. And that cannot help
Essentially,
everybody.
you're saying that everything is out there on social media, but everything is still being covered.
Like you said, there can be negativity. Of course, everything, there's nothing that cannot be abused. So social media can definitely be abused, which is why those you call influencers, for example, are supposed to be the gatekeepers of this platform. But you realize that even the influencers that are close to the government are giving wrong information. We have case of Loretta Onochi. She had to apologize twice last year. You know, she's part of Buhari's aid.
Yeah.
She put out wrong information in December. She put out another one in September where she was putting out a picture and saying this road in Nasarawa just
And she has
was done.
followers.
And then she came out to say, oh, I'm sorry, it was wrong. That was after people had used Google search tool to dispute this picture and say, no, this picture is not from this place. And the same thing happened when she was trying to undermine article in the whole campaign. And this is twice. And this is somebody that's supposed to be in the government. This is somebody that if you're saying you're having a gatekeeper or gatekeepers on this platform, this is someone that's supposed to be one of the authentic gatekeepers, but she's not giving the right information.
Talking about information here, sorry to take that from you, the issue of fake news must arise when we're looking at these issues. I tell you what, sometime early last year, if I'm not mistaken, there was this thing about the army going to schools to immunize children and kill them, you know, in the south and in the southeast. And it was a story that some crazy person on a radio station that is supposed to be banned in this country put out. And then it translated to WhatsApp messages that were being sent to people that became news. Now, as much as the people in traditional media were trying to dispute this and say, the army cannot do that, the army is not even saddled with the responsibility of immunization, it still went back to social media. So social media can be a big problem when it comes to the issue of fake news. So how do we regulate that? Because in my father's case, he used to be a journalist and he has me, so he would send the messages to me for verification. But for those who do not know, and I remember what happened, schools had to shut down in so many places, including Port Harcourt. It was a mess.
Everywhere in
How
the
do we
Eastern
control that? Because this can also be used to hit up the polity.
And this is why I mentioned social media gatekeepers. Now, nobody has come out to say, oh, you are the social media gatekeeper. But with common sense, you know how these things work. You have people you're following.
Common sense is not common.
Well, it's not common. But you have people you're following, yeah? And for example, you're following me, I have close to 80,000 followers. And I have people who DM me for every reason. DM means direct message. They come for every reason to say, how do I get this done? How do I get that done? Because they believe that whatever I put out there is to be held to authentic. Do you understand? So they come to you. So if you have these gatekeepers and they are being compromised, now that is the problem. Which was why I mentioned the person I mentioned in the first place. I mean, if an Elsie Godwin is coming to tell you that this is this, and someone that's supposed to be in that camp, that's supposed to be close to the president, is telling you something else, which is, I mean, absolutely false. And then you're wondering, who are we believing? So it still boils down to the influencers. It boils down to people. I mean, everybody wants to be called influencers, but who are the real influencers?
Well, thank you so much, Elsie, for that very insightful one. Talking about the elections, because obviously we're talking about what role the social media can play in the forthcoming general elections. Now we know that one touchy issue is that of results. When the elections, you know, is ongoing, everybody is publishing results and all of that. And we saw that in Osun. You know, during the Osun state election, there were lots of results. We didn't know which to believe. Now, in February, on 16th precisely, we're going to have another election. And we know that such things will still happen.
Definitely.
How does INEC, as a regulatory agency, as the one saddled with electoral, you know, the electoral issue to take care of results and all of that, how do they ensure that wrong results are not propagated through the social media, and even if they are, that they have a way to counter it to ensure that the right result is also available? Because wrong results, fake results will move far when there is the authentic one is not released by the right source when it's, you know, verifiable. So how does INEC proactively contain this even now? You know, how do they start planning towards ensuring that that doesn't happen this time?
For me, it's very important that we understand that we're in a social economy, and then what it means being social is that it is man and his environment. So, you know, I saw a post recently that said we have a nation today that does not have a president, and every physical nation on earth is a part of that nation, and the widest nation that we're talking about is Facebook. So you have a television like Netflix, for instance, that didn't run any cable. So we're in a world that is completely virtual. All right, so when you have a virtual world, then the question becomes, the real guys who are involved with the physical activities, what is their structures? All right, so one of the finest way to get involved, it's a common sense, all right? When I mean it's common sense, it means that, you know, when I mean it's common sense, it means we can be both in the pit to help each other, all right? So you can't be this distant from the people. So in other words, if you know fake news will always emanate from the social media, then you as INEC must be in the social media. That's the challenge to be.
On social media.
Obviously, whatever they're doing on social media cannot be equated with what our influencers are doing. So if INEC is going to be on social media, you must have the capacity to deliver even more than what our influencers are doing.
So,
all right,
the level of activity has to be way above and beyond.
You understand? So we have a problem with, you know, so when they cast their budget, they're not thinking about social media.
Wow.
When they cast their budget, the primary thing you're thinking about is one other political group bringing money so that they can do, you know, the normal fiscal activations that they do from house to house.
Everything analog.
You understand? So yeah, you check. So completely analog. And beyond that as well, you look at INEC and their system of planning, then you just realize that they are not in tune with the real world of today.
So what should we start seeing?
So the recommendations are pretty simple, all right? For INEC, like I said, if you're the umpire of elections, the first thing you do is, let's do voter sensitization. How much have we done that? Instead, what INEC has done is relegate the place of educating voters to what influencers will do. All right, so you have different organizations saying they're educating voters. And then you ask yourself, if every organization or individuals are educating voters, the real umpire that should be educating us, where are they? They are hiding. All right, so where they are not playing their roles.
In fairness to INEC, I know that I've seen on their Twitter handle.
On their Twitter
I like
handle.
that you mentioned Twitter handle.
Yeah.
On their
Whoever is
Twitter
handling that Twitter handle
It's primarily
does not even know half of the information you
at
do.
all.
Because I've had to tweet at them and say, this is this, break it down. And nobody responded. And it went that way. And so many people keep mentioning them, asking them questions. It's not like they've answered these questions and they keep asking. No. They are not responding.
But
and what
INEC
could be
does have,
responsible?
again, in
Yes.
fairness to INEC, they have a voter education department which also has a director, and we have had one of them here in the studio. But my question keeps, you know, the question that keeps coming is, how much of this education have you done? Because you can't just tell people, go get your PVCs. Go and vote.
Okay.
I mean, they have questions that are seeking answers. How many of those questions have
People
you
want
been
to ask
able to answer?
specific questions,
You see,
like
that's-
Elsie
yeah,
did.
yeah.
So now that INEC, obviously, they didn't answer your question, and a lot of other people, and you are an influencer. I'm sure that some of the officials may know that you are an influencer, And if they had responded, they would have responded to a question that many other people, possibly people asked you, and you then asked INEC.
Yeah.
So how do we move on to the point where INEC is more responsive on social media ahead of the election? Because if we don't have a responsive INEC, that means people will make mistakes. We'll have lots of ballots that we cannot count.
I mean, this recommendation, even if you give 1 million and one of it here right now, I'm not sure it's going to do anything.
Can I quickly add to
Okay.
say that, you see, you can't force people to have value for something they don't have regard for.
But this is government.
It's obvious that we have a government that is completely away from the realities of today.
Yes, but we want to get them closer to
Yes, my
reality.
point. Yes, my point. You go into our government offices, agencies, and the likes, and then you still see papers everywhere. You see all kinds of files that are unnecessarily placed in places, just occupying spaces and cubicles and all of that. Now, we were doing too much of papers where the entire world, where the whole world is thinking about how to go paperless.
So you're talking about something I'm very passionate about.
You understand?
Data
so
collection and data
you
management.
get it. So when it now concerns, if you cannot gather, you will not be able to get the right concrete data to be able to publish. All right. So we have an INEC, for instance, or any of our government parastatals or agencies and the likes of them. They are individuals who like it the analog way because it's always the easy way to manipulate figures.
Actually, we don't have time. We want to get to the point where we're saying, oh, this is what can be done.
Of course.
Yeah, so Elsie, can you offer us what's the way forward? What does INEC need to do? What does the handler of their Twitter handle need to do at this point?
In regards to which one exactly?
In regards to responding to specific questions, checking their DM, putting out the right
I'm guessing
information,
INEC should be answering this question.
One of the things we've even not added is the fact that ask who are those handling their Twitter page. So, you know, for all their social media pages, you now realize that they are actually not INEC officials. All right.
Well, but they're working for the for the commission.
If they are working, all right. So there are templates about how you answer questions, but it is different when you have an insider who understands what the process is.
I mean,
but they're not even asking. That's the problem.
You know, he mentioned
Completely
something about everybody wanting to be on paper and not necessarily moving to the digital space. Now, as at the last time I checked, we have half of Nigeria population on internet. At least we had 111 million on the internet. That is huge.
That's huge.
You know, that's to tell you there needs to be proper
and that's why Google is
attention. Sorry,
what can we do?
Getting somewhere.
Yes.
So if you have that number of people, it means that whoever that is passing the information down to your social media handle, as little as you want to call Twitter, as little as you want to call Facebook and whatever platform you're using, it is highly important they are involved in the managerial decisions that is happening in INEC, because they can bring feedback and they are the ones taking the feedback. But the case you see is, oh, you employ somebody that you're paying probably a peanut who doesn't even know what is going on just to respond, and then you get a situation whereby, oh, before you respond, Oga has to sign off on it. Just because I'm asking you, where am I supposed to
All right, guys,
vote?
we have just 1 minute to go.
Yes,
so quickly, have we been using social media the right way? If the answer is yes, I mean, in this instance, I'm talking about leading up to the elections. Have we been using social media? Have we been harnessing the potentials positively in terms of elections in Nigeria? Quickly.
I mean, many years ago, the kind of knowledgeable Nigerians that we have today wouldn't have been possible if not for social media. The kind of engaging Nigerians that we have, everybody's interested about the elections. You saw what happened in 2015. If not for social media, where people are telling their stories, engaging government, you know, getting government to talk, give us informations, we wouldn't have the kind of responsive government, at least to an extent that we have today. So social media is working effectively well, though we are still growing in it. Now, but what's important is that government must learn to have a budget for it. Data are expensive, so how do people get into those space? So if you're going to be integrating social media as a part of the plan, running a virtual country in that sense, where people can harness the potentials within the digital space.
So data needs to be cheaper.
Very important too.
Okay, I'm going to come from the angle of the government using the influencers to push their message, or the politicians, especially for what we are talking about. Now they are there using these people because we have the case of stomach infrastructure. It has gotten to social media because people are hungry, people need jobs. You get people, oh, because I have 20,000 followers, or that you have grown your followers to a certain amount, you are now an influencer. So they use that platform to push information. So let's go beyond using these people and just paying them money to pass an information that you think should work for you, and use them to pass proper informations for every institution we have in Nigeria.
Thank you so much, Elsie. What I'm taking away from this is that INEC, I think they have a public relations unit that should take to mind to incorporate someone in the PR unit into their social media unit, so that whatever is coming out, whatever Nigerians are served on social media, on their Twitter handle, is just the right information, and that people get response. On election day, if I have a question, I should turn to INEC, I should go on social media and ask
They need to be a bit more active, bottom line. And again, I don't think the responsibility lays with INEC alone, of course.
Of course, yeah.
The responsibility for politicians, political parties, because they also are on social media. And even us, the electorate, seek for the right information. Traditional media has moved from newspapers and TV onto social media. If you need verification, you could also go to those handles. So.
That's right. Well, speaking of social media, please use our social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, to tell us your expectations from this election. Of course, we run polls from time to time. We'll be back with a news update. Well, thank you so much, Elsie Godwin, of course, for joining us. She is the Welfare Officer, Digital Media Practitioners of Nigeria. And we've also been speaking with Ola Emma. He is a social entrepreneur and growth strategist.
Thank you very much.
We'll be back with news updates. Stay with us.